What you are about to witness is a fascinating interview with a gentleman called Christopher Spencer, or rather that is his pen name. He has to conceal his real name. In the following interview, Christopher speaks about his 50 plus years in the world of high-level finance, both as a banker and a finance and investment broker. He covers everything from international espionage to covert financial agreements, conmen, murder, war, and more, with a touch of personal flair. Everything you are about to hear is true. Some questions were pre-agreed and scripted to explain specific content in his books. Most are not. You can find details of where to buy his books in the video description below. This is part 10. Do you think it's useful for budding entrepreneurs, especially men, who see the world of high finance and want to get involved and high level business and everything, and especially those who simply want to pursue riches and the similar kind of trappings of life? Do you think it's valuable for people like that to read stories like this, to give them a good understanding of what it's really like and not what you see on TV?
Yeah, I suppose it is. It brings another dimension in, but you mentioned men, but women should read it as well. I've always been a very strong advocate of women being in business and in finance. When I was in construction, I had a panel of 3 lady bankers. They were all very good friends of mine. And whenever I had a particular difficult problem, I used to ring one of them up. I used to choose one, I'd ring them up, and I'd either invite them to lunch or perhaps they'd invite me to lunch. And I used to put this problem to them. And funnily enough, I always got a solution because women's minds work in a different way from men. We have to accept that. They see things in a different way. And they came up with the answer that many men would not be able to come up with. So women in business is very, very important. It brings a proper balance of the other sex being involved. It brings a different perspective on life. And women are extremely logical and practical human beings. We must not forget that. And if we forget it, it's at our error and at our loss.
Very interesting. So would you say what's beneficial for all is a natural balance between the two sexes, as opposed to forcing one side into dominance over the other?
Yeah, absolutely. We are not all gifted. One has to accept that. People have got different intelligence, cell level of intelligence. I never believe in any kind of racial discrimination. Some of the people I've met have been brilliant, and they've been from all different kinds of countries. I do not worry about sexual orientation or anything else. That is absolute rubbish. But the fact is that people are of different intelligence. And where we find intelligence, it should be cultivated for the good of everybody. I think Karl Marx put it a very good way. And he wrote, I think in Das Kapital, from each according to their abilities, to each according to their needs. You may find it strange that I quote Karl Marx and communist dictum because I'm so anti-communist and worked against the communist situation as well as I possibly could. But you have to recognize that Marx was a great philosopher, and a lot of his work was misused by the elite that took over in Russia in 1917.
Yeah.
And it went the wrong way. It went the wrong way.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Like, I often say that exact same thing. There's a natural hierarchy, and I think the modern age, it's probably always been the same, but especially in the modern age, people's values are derived from the wrong places. So, for example, now young people look up to those who are good looking or who could play sports or are good musically, all the things you see on mainstream TV. But in the real world, none of that matters. In the real world, the people who run the world and get everything built and get everything maintained and create the wealth, there's a more natural hierarchy. And would you say, other than the conmen, who are actually probably part of that hierarchy because it takes intelligence to con people effectively, would you say those upper echelons kind of are reflective of a more natural state because there is more of a natural hierarchy? Would you say that's the case as opposed to the kind of day-to-day mainstream world where everything's kind of fake?
Yes, I think the world, we seem to have a world of celebrity, and you mentioned the pop industry, the pop music industry, sorry, etc., etc., and the various games are on television. Um, I mean, there is a hierarchy, which is, I think, much more important, and that is the hierarchy of people that are not so known and popular. The scientists working in the laboratory to find a vaccine against COVID, the scientist or the inventor trying to work and get a new method of producing green energy, sustainable energy. Um, the entrepreneur struggling to bring a new invention which is going to help the human race onto the market. These are the people that I think are important because in the end, they are the people that actually will change things, hopefully for the better. For the better. It's not going to be the pop idol. It's not going to be the politician. It's not going to be the any other celebrity film star, for we say. It's going to be those people working quietly, assiduously to bring out new methods, new technologies, new ways of doing things. Those are the people that need to be fostered and brought to the fore, particularly now that we've got such things as climate change. The world is changing very fast through our own ignorance and what we have done to the world. Now we as a species have to adapt and adapt quickly, and we need people like that in order to survive, literally to survive. So you asked me the question about my second story, and you mentioned the hair-raising execution at the beginning of it. And in fact, other people have said this. They said, I started on your second story, and, it was pretty horrific. And I said, well, it actually happened. It's true. And although it wasn't thought of at the time as a murder, it was thought of as a suicide. Later on, it was proved to be a murder. And the police force involved was trying to deny that it was a suicide, but it actually was a murder. And it was a horrific murder, a slow strangulation of a human being. And that opens the story of money laundering, of theft, of fraud in a very, very large amounts. There's another part of that story where I talk about myself working in the City of London and walking through the city with a briefcase, and I suppose knowing something that nobody else knew. What I had in my briefcase was $300 million in bearer bonds, which are just like cash. And I was walking merrily through the City of London. And when I got to one of the tube stations in the city, I thought to myself, well, I could just take this briefcase. I can go down these steps, I can take a tube to Heathrow Airport, and then a flight to South America, a country which doesn't have an extradition treaty with the UK, and I've got $300 million in cash with me, which I can change into cash, and I can live like a king for the rest of my life. And it was a temptation at that time, it really was. And I thought to myself, now don't be silly, they're going to be after you very soon when they find out that you've just taken $300 million. So I resisted the temptation, and I walked into the bank where I was going to deposit these instruments, these bonds, bearer bonds, and deposited them there as I should have done, because this particular bank had just bought them off me, or off my employer, I should say.
That ties in with the whole trustworthiness thing you said.
Sorry, Lee?
the whole trustworthiness thing.
Yeah,
You've mentioned.
my word is my bond. That was the old city, and I was part of it. And I therefore kept with that pretext of being honest and open as much as I possibly could. And that's what I've done with my stories. I've tried to be honest and open as much as I can.